My name is Elias Vaughan. The park near my apartment had always been my go-to spot for peace of mind. It wasn't the fanciest park. A couple of rusty swings, 3 wooden benches, and a fountain that hadn't worked in years. But it was quiet, and in the chaos of city life, that was enough for me. I had this ritual where I'd walk to the middle bench every Friday night after work, grab a sandwich, and just sit. Watch the breeze bend the trees, the leaves whisper like they knew things I didn't. Sometimes a stray cat would slink by, or someone would jog past, but mostly it was just me and the dark, which I didn't mind. That was until one Friday night changed everything I thought I understood about being alone. That night, the air felt heavier. There wasn't a single breeze. Even the leaves seemed frozen. I sat on my usual bench, unwrapped my sandwich, and realized something was off. My bench was slightly warm, as if someone had just been sitting there. I brushed it off. Maybe it was the heat trapped from the day. But it was October, and the day had been cold. I remember biting into my sandwich and noticing how loud the chewing sounded. That's how quiet it was. Too quiet. Not even crickets. I glanced to the bench on the far right. A man was sitting there. I hadn't seen him walk in, hadn't heard a single footstep. He sat completely still, wearing a hoodie that shadowed his face. His hands rested on his knees, fingers twitching ever so slightly. Something about him made me nervous. I tried to ignore it. Told myself parks are public. People come and go. I kept eating. After a while, I looked up again. The man was gone. Just gone. No sound, no footsteps, nothing. But now, the bench he had been on, it was rocking. Slightly, like someone had just stood up and the weight shift hadn't settled yet. I stared at it, sandwich forgotten, my heart picking up speed. I stood up slowly, trying to decide whether to head home or keep calm and stay. That's when I saw it. My bench, the one I had just stood up from, had something written on it. It hadn't been there before. I swear it hadn't. Scrawled in messy black marker, "You looked away." I blinked, reached out to touch it. The ink was fresh, still slightly wet. I spun around, scanning the park. No one. The other 2 benches were empty. Even the path leading into the park was clear. I backed away slowly, walking toward the street lamp at the park's entrance. The light above flickered once, twice, and then went out, plunging me into darkness. That's when I heard the whisper, not from ahead, from directly behind me, inches away. "You saw me." I didn't scream. I couldn't. My throat locked up. I just ran, sprinting past the broken fountain, past the benches, and out onto the main road where cars passed and lights buzzed. I didn't stop until I was inside my apartment, door bolted. I stood there, panting, thinking maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone knew my routine. Maybe it was a sick joke. But then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. My phone, which I had left on the bench beside me earlier to eat more comfortably, was now on my kitchen counter. I had left it there, hadn't I? Or had I taken it with me? I picked it up. The screen was unlocked. The camera app was open. A single photo sat in the gallery. It was of me, sitting on the bench, looking over at the man in the hoodie. Except in the photo, his face wasn't shadowed. It was blurred. Completely. Like a motion blur, except he wasn't moving. And I wasn't the one taking the picture. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. But eventually, life forces you to keep going. I didn't return to that park. Not for weeks. When I finally did, it was the middle of the day, sun high in the sky. I needed to prove to myself it had been a hallucination or a nightmare. The bench still had the words on it. You looked away. Except now, beneath it, was another line carved into the wood this time. I never did. There's a small park 3 blocks from where I used to live. Just a patch of green, surrounded by iron fencing, 2 rusted swing sets, and 3 wooden benches that had long ago been forgotten by the city's maintenance crew. One of those benches sat under a crooked street lamp that flickered every few seconds, like it couldn't decide whether to stay on or die out completely. That was my bench. I used to go there almost every night after my late shifts to get some air, think things through, and sit in silence before heading back to my one-room apartment. On this particular night, I remember it being colder than usual, and even though it was late April, I could see my breath. The sky was clouded over, and the moon looked like it had been smeared by someone's dirty fingers. I was sitting on my usual bench, hoodie pulled tight, when I noticed something odd. An old man sitting on the other bench across from me. That didn't make sense. It was past 2 a.m., and I had never seen anyone else in the park that late, let alone someone who looked like they didn't belong outside in that weather. He wore a brown trench coat and an old fedora that shadowed most of his face. I tried not to stare, but every time the light flickered, I could swear his head turned slightly more toward me. I looked away, pulled out my phone, but had no signal. Just a spinning wheel. Then I noticed something worse. He wasn't alone. Next to him, I saw a figure I hadn't noticed before. A small woman, or maybe a girl, head down, hair covering her face, unmoving. The streetlight blinked again. When it turned back on, they were both looking at me. I froze. It wasn't just their sudden motion. It was their expressions. Blank, unblinking. And both had tears streaming down their cheeks, but their faces remained completely still. I stood up slowly, trying to act casual. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I imagined it. But as I started to walk away, I heard footsteps behind me, fast and light, like someone was jogging barefoot. I turned. No one. The park was empty again. The benches were vacant. My heart was pounding. I shook it off and picked up my pace. I crossed the street, heading back toward my building, and glanced over my shoulder once more. This time, they were on my bench. Both of them, just sitting there, staring at me from across the road. I didn't sleep that night. The next evening, out of some bizarre mix of fear and curiosity, I went back. The park was empty. I waited for an hour, watching the benches, watching the light. Nothing. I returned again the next night, and the next, for a week. Nothing. Then on the 8th night, the bench under the flickering light had something on it. A red scarf, neatly folded. I didn't touch it, but something about it felt familiar. I left immediately. That same night, I had a dream, vivid and cold. I was sitting on the bench. Across from me were the same 2 figures crying. They said nothing, just wept silently. But then suddenly, the girl leaned forward and whispered, "Don't let him in." I woke up in a cold sweat. My apartment door was slightly ajar. I always lock it, always. But the chain was swinging gently, like it had just been shut seconds before. I searched the place. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was broken. But my shoes were wet. I hadn't gone out. My feet were dry. But my shoes, damp, muddy, as if someone else had worn them outside. The following evening, I didn't go to the park, but I felt watched. Every corner I turned, every street light I passed, it felt like someone was just behind me. On the 10th day, I decided to visit the city library, trying to dig up anything I could about the park. What I found stopped me cold. A newspaper article from 1974. Couple found dead on bench in Riverside Park. Suspected murder-suicide. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. The same bench, the same crooked lamp, and I swear, the same faces. The man had the fedora. The girl, the hair in her face. They were father and daughter. According to the article, the father was a war vet suffering from severe PTSD. One night, he took his daughter to the park and poisoned them both. She died instantly. He survived long enough to scream for help, but no one came. The report said people had heard the cries but assumed it was just someone drunk or homeless. The last line of the article quoted the father's final words before dying. She's still here. She won't leave. She wants someone to notice. That's when I remembered the scarf. Red. The same one the daughter was wearing in the old photo. It hadn't just been left there. It had been placed. For someone. Maybe me. I never went back to the park. But sometimes I pass by in a cab. And every so often I see two figures sitting side by side, still, like they're waiting for something or someone. And when I blink, they're gone. But one time, the cab stopped at a red light. I looked out the window, and the man turned his head toward me and smiled. I didn't wait for the light to change. There's a small overgrown trail at the edge of my neighborhood that leads to a hidden clearing most people don't even know exists, and in that clearing stands a single park bench, rotting, warped, and half swallowed by weeds. That bench has no path leading to it anymore, just broken branches and thorns, but it's there like it's waiting for someone. I only found it because of a wrong turn on an evening run. My phone had died, and I was trying to follow what I thought was a shortcut when I stumbled into the clearing, tripped over a root, and landed face first in the dirt. When I looked up, I saw it. The bench. It wasn't just old. It felt wrong, like it didn't belong in this time. There was something off about the wood, something crooked in the angles, like it had been built to trap instead of support. I sat down only for a moment to catch my breath. But when I did, the air changed. It became thicker, heavier. The forced noises stopped. Even my breathing sounded too loud, like I was underwater. And then I saw him. An old man standing just a few feet away in the tree line, staring at me. Not moving, not blinking. His clothes looked tattered, like they were from another era. Muddy overalls, no shirt, and a wide-brimmed hat that cast a shadow down his face. I stood up immediately, heart pounding. But when I turned back the way I came, the trail was gone. Completely vanished. Just thick brush and black trees. I looked back. The man was now closer, still not moving, but somehow only 10 feet away. I ran in the opposite direction, crashing through branches, tearing my legs on thorns until I broke out of the woods and onto a main road I didn't recognize. A car slowed beside me. A woman rolled down her window and asked if I needed help. I told her I was lost. She looked confused when I told her the name of my neighborhood. That development was torn down years ago, she said, after the fires. I blinked, confused. I checked my phone, full battery, full signal. But the date, it was 2 days ahead. Somehow, I had lost 48 hours. I walked the rest of the way back toward where my apartment should have been, and to my relief, it was still there. Everything looked normal. I tried to write it off as a concussion or exhaustion, but every night after that, I began dreaming about the bench. Same clearing, same man, same heavy air, One night, I woke up to find dirt under my fingernails and leaves in my bed. Another morning, I found splinters in the soles of my feet, but I hadn't left my apartment all night. I even had a GPS tracker app on my phone. Checked it. No movement. But then one night, I tried something. I left my phone recording on my desk, facing my bed, while I slept. The footage was only a few seconds long, even though it should have been hours. All it showed was me sleeping, and then suddenly sitting up at 3:11 a.m., eyes wide, mouth moving like I was speaking to someone. But there was no audio, no sound, just my lips moving and eyes staring at something beyond the camera. I took the video to a tech friend who enhanced it. He didn't say anything. He just paused it at the last frame, me staring dead into the lens, and behind me, just over my shoulder, was the man. The one from the woods, clear as day, a slight smile on his face. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after, and then I made the worst mistake. I went back. I needed to see if the bench was real, if I could destroy it, burn it, do something to stop the dreams. I followed the path again, and it was there, just like before. I brought lighter fluid and matches. I doused the bench and set it alight. But it didn't burn. The flames curled up and died like they were being smothered by something invisible. And then I heard laughter. Not loud, not in my ears, inside my head. The man was standing right next to me now, grinning. "You came back," he whispered. "That's all it takes." I ran. Again. Same road. Same woman. Same confused look. Same date glitch, another 2 days gone. I was stuck. Every time I got close to forgetting it, I'd wake up with pine needles in my socks or wet dirt in my mouth. I moved apartments, then moved cities, but the dreams came anyway. Only this time the bench was in places it shouldn't be. On a city street corner, in a shopping mall hallway, once even in the lobby of my office building. No one else could see it, but I could. Always. And if I sat down, the world shifted. Time broke. People disappeared. I'd find myself in black and white versions of reality, where every sound echoed like I was in a tomb. The worst part? I couldn't stop myself from sitting. It was like my body wasn't mine. I tried therapy. I tried sleep clinics, but nothing stopped it. Until one night, I didn't wake up. I just stayed in the dream. Days passed, then weeks. And when I finally woke up, I wasn't in my bed. I was on the bench. For real. Cold, stiff, screaming for help in a forest that no longer existed on any map. The last thing I remember was someone new, stumbling.